All right, everybody. This is the second Maya notes. They're actually the last one. Remember, before we had found out where the Mayan people live in the rainforest and how they adapted to the rainforest using slash and burn. And we also found out a little bit about their society and their way of thinking about beauty. Today, we're going to finish up society and what they do for fun. We're going to go over their government and their religion, and we'll do some other things as well. And then the final thing that you'll do is a short assignment based on a review that would be fun, but it's kind of just review from this PowerPoint. Okay. So our essential question for these notes are, how did the Mayan Empire rise and fall? First, let's finish up their society with stuff that they did for fun. The Mayan are known for a game called Pakatak. This is a picture in the background of their field that they played on. As you can see, there's kind of slanted walls and stones and things like that. Well, how they played, it's a little bit like, as it comes up here, a little bit of like soccer. They could not use their hands, but they could also not use their feet. There was a rubber ball that they had to hit, and they actually used their hips to hit the ball. It was kind of like football in that they had to score points on using the hips as their, to hit the ball. And it's kind of like basketball too, because there were a pair of hoops that they had to shoot the ball into using their hips, of course, and that's how they played. If you lost the game, you would usually get sacrificed. And yeah, if you won, you might get sacrificed too, because gods like winners. So they might be either way. You might have to get sacrificed. We'll talk more about that later. In terms of technology, the Maya were very big in math and science. One thing about their technology was their writing. Instead of using just symbols like the Egyptians did with their hieroglyphics, they used symbols and sounds, not just pictures, in order to do their writing. Their individual pictures and using symbols are called, using sounds are called glyphs. So it's similar to hieroglyphics, just not the same. Here's some examples of how they might use, do this. So kind of like English, we have the word cat, which is K plus at, two sounds put together, and it creates a word. They took two pictures and sounds and put them together and to make the actual word, which in their language is tsib, and you can see how that works right there. The only other people to have this advanced type of writing is the Native Americans. So it's similar to English, where we kind of put together two sounds, but they go a step further and put two pictures also together to make the actual word. In terms of their vowels, they had A, E, I, O, U, and X in terms of this. The A sounded like an ah sound, the E and eh sound, the I and E sound, and the O and O sound, and the U an oo sound, and the X a sh sound as in bush. Some common phrases. Bix abelex means hi, how are you in Mayan. Malub is I'm fine. And Yum Batik is thank you. So there you go, some information, just some extra stuff if you want to use it. Besides writing, the Mayan people also had a very advanced system of math. They used a base of 20. In America, we use a base of 10. And I'm not sure about all the numbers and subtracting and all that kind of stuff. You can ask your math teacher about that. But they are one of the first Western civilizations in the Americas to understand the concept of zero and to have zero in their number system. So very important. They also came up with their own calendar. If you remember this symbol, we saw it in the intro to the Mayan. It was the two gears that were put together. Those are the calendar. As you can see, you have the numbers on the small one, how many days there are, right? and then possibly months, and then you have kind of the months and periods of time around them for them. So a little bit information about the calendar. Basically, they used it for two different things. One, when they plant crops, and two, for religious rituals. We'll talk more about their religion later, specifically what they believed in and things like that, but that's kind of what they used the calendar for. There was a prediction of when the Earth would end in December 2012. If anybody remembers that, because their calendar ended on December, I think it was 20th, 2012, and obviously that didn't happen. But there was that, maybe it's a lot of conspiracy theorists were like, oh, it's gonna end, and it didn't. So there you go. Here's a little comic about that. The Mayan calendar as well. So in terms of the religion, the Mayans were polytheistic, meaning that they believed in many gods, mostly through nature. So their main god was the god of the sun, and they also believed in gods of water, of chocolate, of different kinds of corn, basically everything. And there were a lot of gods. And each of these gods needed a unique sacrifice in order to be happy, meaning that the god of chocolate might want a piece of, cocoa, or cacao is how you say it in their language, or corn, maybe want some corn. And their main god, the god of the sun, actually wanted human blood. Now, there's a couple ways they did this, and we'll talk about it in a second. Remember, this is a mural kind of what they did. So there's the god of the sun, and there's actually the moon god over by him too. Basically, what they did, and this is a quote from one of the priests, what they had to do was they should cut themselves open, that from under their ribs up to their armpits, their hearts should be torn out before everything sacrificed. So one of the things that they could do is chop out their hearts and give it to the god of the sun, or they could also do this. Next, make holes in your ears and otherwise prick your elbows and knees. Offer a sacrifice the blood that flows from them, and in these ways your gratitude will be shown. So they could give a bowl, and that's why they're giving bowls right there to people in order to give that to the god of the sun. Now, obviously, those who are sacrificed are usually prisoners of war, people that get captured in war and things like that, to offer them as or slave as their sacrifice. In terms of their government, the Maya had city-states. City-states are basically sort of like what the Greeks had. Each city had their own region that they were in charge of, with their own ruler, their own laws, and all that kind of stuff. And you can see here there's four main ones: Chichen Itza in the north, Palenque in the east, or west, excuse me, Tikal in the east, and Copan in the south. And each of these had their own ruler, their own laws, but they all worked together to form the Maya Empire. There was at no point no single king that ever ruled over the Maya, but there were many who tried to take over the majority of the empire and succeeded, but they didn't get all of them. And that might have led to their doom, that they had one person that wanted all the power, and you never know. We'll talk about that in a second too. So city-states is what their governments were like. So all of these technologies, their math, their writing, their governments, their human sacrifices, their religion, all led up to a great period of Mayan advancement from about 200 to 900 AD. Remember, at this time, this is about the Middle Ages, actually a little bit of the beginning of the Middle Ages and the end of the Roman period. So it's like the Roman period to the Middle Ages in Europe. And in this time, they grow their technology, their writing develops, they grow in population, and of course, they grow in power, and their empire continues to grow as well. In terms of their collapse, why did this great civilization collapse after this classic period of greatness? Around 900 AD, we don't really know what happened, but the Mayans left and abandoned all of their cities. All of their major cities were abandoned. We have no idea why. There are many theories. Including that there might be not enough food, so famine could have been a part of the problem. Some say that there was too much war, that people were vying to get power from each other. Some even say aliens. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But we'll definitely investigate that next week to see what ones you think are the possibilities of what happened to the Maya. But in general, we don't know what happened. There's my famine, little puppy famine, doesn't have any food. Here comes my alien. There's my alien. So after about 300 years of no Mayans whatsoever, they come back for some reason. We don't really know why they come back. We don't know how they come back, but about 300 years afterward, they come back, about 1400s, 1300s, 1400s. But in the 1500s, the Europeans start coming in, the explorers we talked about, and it's particularly the Spanish. They arrive and they start conquering the remaining Maya cities, and they are gone forever. Now, there are Mayans that still live today. There's not a lot of them left, but there are still some that live and have their heritage today. The Spanish, unfortunately, burned their books. They banned their language and culture, and in time, a lot of the information that we had about the Mayans was gone because of the Spanish and the Europeans. So I have a brain stack. And your brain stack today is going to be a review. And actually, you can do this on Word. You can do it on anything like that. What we would have done is you would written down 2 review questions from today's notes. You're still going to do that, so write down 2 review questions from something that you learned today, and make sure that you write down the answers too. I know that it does say that make sure the answers are in the notes already, but make sure that you write down the answers as well as the questions on another piece of paper or on Word or in OneNote, somewhere that I can find them. I will make a Flipgrid for this too. So, okay.